Bottom Line viewers, it's Mitch back here with another week of NFL picks, this time for week number 9 of the 2019 NFL season. We are just over halfway through the NFL season, meaning that we are starting to figure out who the good teams, who the bad teams, who the contenders are, and kind of starting to shape up that NFL playoff race. So we're determining the AFC contenders, NFC contenders, the first round buys, the home fields, the divisional round opponents, all that sort of stuff, the wild cards. And really, the NFL season now, once you hit November, which is not quite November yet, but once you hit November, that's really where the NFL starts. That's really where the good, big-time games are being played, upcoming. And I really feel like Week 9 is kind of the start of that. Week 9 right now, looking at this schedule, looking at the games that are coming up here in Week 9, we're starting to get some of these prime-time games that I feel like are going to dictate home field advantage. I feel like are going to hurt or help certain teams in playoff races in the AFC and the NFC, and we're really going to learn. I think that's the biggest thing. We're going to learn a lot about these teams this week because week number 9 is the start of the real games in the NFL. Not that those don't matter, but I think this is really the real start of those games. So guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you do Gronk spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL picks, previews, analysis videos that I have on the channel, and comment your opinion below. What do you think of my picks? Do you love my picks this week? Do you hate my picks this week? I want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. Also, leave your picks in the comment section so I can take a look, compare, contrast, see what I like, see what I don't like, maybe give you a comment back and say, hey, I hate your pick, or hey, I love your pick. Let me know in the comment section below, and also let me know if I could do anything better here on the Bottom Line View to make it a better experience. Always looking to get better. So, guys, last week, week number 8, looking at the record, week number 8, I did pretty well, if I don't say so myself. I went 13-2 straight up. Just straight up picking the games, 13-2. The games that I did get wrong, I picked Tampa Bay over Tennessee, which was looking like a really good game for me, and then it just didn't work out. The other game, I can't seem to remember what I picked wrong, but nonetheless, I picked 2 games wrong last week out of the 15. It was a pretty easy week overall. So I'm sure that if you guys do weekly picks, you probably did pretty well. I'm pretty sure that a large majority of people, it was a pretty chalk week, which is why I'm excited about week number 9, because I feel like it's not going to be as chalk as this past week in week number 8 was. And then versus the spread, I did good again. I went over 500. I was, let me check this, I believe I was 9-6. 9-6 versus the spread last week. Some good picks overall, mostly on my bets, on the best bets. I did pretty well. There were a couple of games like the Jets that I didn't fare so well in, but mostly a game like the Patriots did well there. Overall, I've been doing pretty well versus the spread, and straight up, I've been getting better once I've been able to figure out, okay, what are the tendencies of these teams? What are they good at? What are they bad at? And I think that's the same for everybody that's picking these games out there. So that was my week number 8. That is my standing so far this season. Let's move into our new week, week number 9. Thursday night football. And guys, of course, as always, I will get to the comments after probably 3 or 4 of these games previews, and then I'll get to the comments, then I'll have another 3 or 4 games, then I'll get to the comments. You guys know the drill, so leave those comments. I will get to as many as possible, the ones that I feel like are the best. I'll give you guys the shout outs, all that. Also, if you want to donate to the channel, make sure that you super chat the big money sign. You guys can donate to the channel if you want to support me and the Bottom Line View in making more and better content here on the channel. So let's get into Thursday Night Football. It's the San Francisco 49ers. It's the Arizona Cardinals. The game is in Arizona. San Fran is minus 10.5 points in this game. It was initially, I think, 10 even this morning, but it moved up to 10.5. The 49ers have been dominant, so I don't see a reason why the odds makers in Vegas shouldn't make this a big spread. The Arizona Cardinals have been dealing with many injuries at the running back position, David Johnson, Edmonds. So they went out at the trade deadline, and they acquired a running back from the Miami Dolphins, Kenyon Drake, a back that I do feel like, I made a video about it, fits the scheme very, very well. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I feel like he's always been underutilized as a talent, as an athlete in Miami, and now is going to be able to look for a new opportunity in Arizona. I don't know if there's a future for him in Arizona. We'll have to see how he plays here in the short term because, of course, they do have Edmonds and David Johnson, two backs that are good players, and Edmonds particularly looked very good, and maybe this is signaling the end of David Johnson's tenure in Arizona. We'll have to see what happens there this offseason. But Kenyon Drake could rather look to stay on Arizona or maybe make the most of this opportunity and look to sign a bigger contract elsewhere in the offseason through free agency. But nonetheless, Kenyon Drake gets an opportunity here in an offense that I think fits his skill set. And that's exactly what Cliff Kingsbury was looking for. A back who very much fits the same mold of a David Johnson or an Edmonds, a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, but also is quick, shifty, and can make the right decision as the back in this spread set mostly offense, which is a big key because you need a guy that can catch the ball. You need a guy that can do a little bit of everything, and I think Kenyon Drake gives them that sort of running back, at least to start this week, and then we'll have to see as the injuries unfold over the next few weeks. San Francisco's defense right now, the Patriots are getting a lot of attention for their defense. San Francisco's has been maybe just a notch below, maybe just as good. They're second in DVOA this season on the defensive side of the ball, second overall on defense. Arizona is 29th in DVOA on defense, which they're third to last. So they're not one of the better defensive units in the league, and San Francisco should definitely be able to take advantage. When looking at it, the Cardinals rank 31st in time of possession per drive on defense and 32nd in yards allowed per drive, meaning that teams are getting the ball versus the Cardinals. They're maintaining time of possession almost more than any other team in the league, and they're gaining the most yards per drive versus the Cardinals. So when looking at this game, the 49ers, they are a team that want to do just that. They want to possess the ball. They want to pound the ball with their running game, with their big, heavy sets that Kyle Shanahan loves to utilize. They want to run it with Tevin Coleman, Matt Breida. They want to be able to hit play action down the field, and I think the Cardinals kind of allow them to do that with how their defense has played this season, being that they do not get off the field frequently. They're the worst team in getting off the field pretty much in the entire league. San Francisco is second in rushing yards per game, which we saw that versus Carolina. We've seen that all season long, that they're able to just dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, whether that's defensively, offensively. I think a big problem for the Cardinals is how are they going to block the 49ers? They are going to have to be extremely creative with how they block up front, how they protect Kyler Murray, because that's my biggest concern for the Cardinals for this becoming a blowout. How do they stop the 49ers pass rush? Because nobody so far has been able to do so. Nick Bosa, D Ford, DeForest Buckner, these guys are animals. They are first in the league in pass rushing productivity. They are just off the charts in terms of sacks and getting after the quarterback and making that quarterback feel uncomfortable. And Kyler Murray, as a rookie, is being put in a terrible position here. I'm intrigued to see how the 49ers continue to utilize and mix Emmanuel Sanders into their offense. He will be, I believe, the number 2 target in the receiving and the passing game for the rest of the season, just under George Kittle, but the number 1 receiver. He already adds an element of just a guy, like I've said over the over the past week since he's been traded, of a guy that can beat man-to-man consistently, a good route runner, a smart player, a good leader, and just a guy that's been in big games before. This isn't a big game for him, but I do expect him to keep up that productivity and allow Jimmy G to have a go-to guy at the receiver position on third down outside of just George Kittle, which is also helping George Kittle, allowing him to get open and not allowing him to suck up all of the attention. Some of it has to go to Emmanuel Sanders. So I love the 49ers to win this game straight up. I do also believe that they will cover the spread of 10.5. The biggest reasons are because when I said those stats, 100% that fits into what San Francisco wants to do. They are going to possess the ball. They are going to have the ball for a large majority of this game, and Kyler Murray will barely even see the field. Not to mention that Kyler Murray and the Cardinals offense is an offense that wants to play fast. They want to play a lot. They want to have a lot of plays in their game, which means that they want to basically play fast. So if the 49ers are able to get them off the field and the Cardinals are playing into the hands of San Francisco in playing fast, that's not going to be a good mix versus San Francisco's pass rush. So I just think this is a terrible matchup for the Cardinals overall. But I like what I've seen from Kyler Murray and Cliff and some of the things overall from their team, and their secondary has improved since getting Patrick Peterson. But overall, I just think on both sides of the ball, the 49ers have proven that they're dominant on the offensive and defensive lines, and that is going to dictate the pace of play, and that's going to dictate the 49ers winning, likely in another blowout. All right, let's get to Sunday. The Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jags. This game will be in London. Jacksonville is basically the home team for London, so they have a lot of experience playing in London and being in that atmosphere, being around that fan base, traveling. They have a lot of experience with the travel and the schedule and understanding how much rest they need, understanding how many days they need to do certain things in the practice and all that sort of stuff. So the Jags are well equipped in playing in those games. The Texans, not as much. And you know what the first thing that kind of stuck out in my mind is? We haven't heard about it this year, but just the thought of last year about how beat up Deshaun Watson was when he was having to take a bus to games. I just wonder how that's going to affect Deshaun Watson and the long travel time, being in the air for that long, having to sit down that long. I know that the NFL and really the trainers and all that, it's modern medicine. It's not going to be like the 1980s or anything like that. But I'm just saying it could have an effect on Deshaun Watson's body, a body that's taken a lot of hits through the course of this season and last season, and I'm just wondering how that long travel time and that awkward schedule, how that's going to affect the MVP candidate right now, Deshaun Watson, as opposed to a team like Jacksonville, who kind of understands that process. I think that's very interesting just to look at that from that standpoint. Now, from a football standpoint, the Texans, they're beat up on defense. They just lost J.J. Watt for the entire season, so they lost their best defensive player. Jacksonville is actually better offensively and defensively in DVOA. They're 11th on offense. They're 14th on defense. Houston is 12th on offense, one spot below Jacksonville, and 20th on defense, 6 spots below Jacksonville. So despite Houston being regarded as the better team, despite Houston having the better record, Jacksonville in terms of DVOA actually has been better this season. To me, this screams a Minshew game to me, because you look at it, the Texans, they're 28th versus the pass. They just lost J.J. Watt, their best pass rusher, and the Texans, what they do well on defense, if they do anything well, is they stop the run. They're 5th versus the run, meaning that Leonard Fournette, they're going to have to pay attention to him regardless. So I don't think they're going to run the ball a ton or try and smash it down the Texans' throat. I think that this is going to be a big-time Gardner Minshew game. You look at Connolly and Chark. They've been really, really good, especially Connolly as of late. Westbrook is banged up, but he might play. The Texans won their first game only 13-12 in Houston, which is intriguing, which tells me that, and I believe that was Minshew's first start as an NFL pro, so that tells me that these two teams are very, very close in this matchup, and they match up well against each other. And you're looking at a game early on in that season when the Texans were a lot healthier in that matchup. They had Will Fuller, they had J.J. Watt, they had more of their corners, and the Jacksonville Jags right now are a healthier football team. Jacksonville has traditionally dominated Deshaun Watson because of their pass rush. Their ability to get after Deshaun Watson has been a big key to their success versus the Texans over the past 2 to 3 seasons since Deshaun Watson's entered the league. The Texans, they have 4 corners that are questionable or out in this game. And the last tidbit here for Deshaun Watson versus Jacksonville's defense, he only passed for 159 yards in that game versus Jacksonville the first time around. So, with all these things adding up, I am going to pick the upset in this game. The Texans are favored by 1.5. I will take the Jags to win this game, and I will take the 1.5. I actually do like the money line bet in this game. I think the Jags will win this game. I think the Jags are just as good, if not a better football team. I really like what I've seen from Jacksonville's offense. I think they just played a defense that's very similar to the Texans in the Jets. I feel like they're very much the same in terms of their scheme, in terms of their strengths, their weaknesses, the way they play, and we saw what Minshew was able to do versus that defense, and I still believe that Jacksonville's pass rush is going to be able to dominate versus the Texans' offensive line, specifically in an environment where this is a home field environment for them. This is going to be like a home game for Jacksonville. So I'm going to take the Jags to win this game, and obviously I will take the 1.5 points. All right. Game number 3, the Redskins at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are minus 10 in this game, maybe minus 10.5, depending on where you're looking at it. The Redskins are horrible. We don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for them, whether that's Case Keenum or it's Dwayne Haskins. Trent Williams has reported to practice, but he has not been practicing, so I take it that it's unlikely he's going to be playing. I think he just came back to the Redskins because he wanted to get some money out of it. When you look at it, 32nd in time of possession, the Redskins are on defense. They're 30th in yards and in points on offense, and they're 31st in first downs. So pretty much they don't do anything well. The Bills will be able to possess the football, just like I talked about with the 49ers. The Buffalo Bills should be able to possess the football in this game. Like I said, 32nd in time of possession defense are the Redskins, which means that they aren't able to get off the field on third down or any down really. The Bills should be able to run the ball in this game. The Bills are actually 8th running the football this season, and the Redskins are one of the worst rush defenses in the league, 28th. So I expect Singletary, Gore, Josh Allen, that rushing attack should have a good game, and hopefully it's enough where it can open up the passing game for some bigger plays down the field. Also, the Bills' defense is probably going to be pretty mad or angry in this game after playing their worst game of the season versus Philadelphia. This game is again in Buffalo, and Buffalo is usually a very tough environment to win, and it's unlikely that a team from the same division is going to go into Buffalo and beat them, back to back. That's very unlikely, especially a team with the talent of the Redskins, not a very talented team. Really, the Bills, they've had 2 losses at home, and they were to the Patriots and the Eagles. Those 2 teams are much better than what the Redskins are this season. The Bills, if there's a way to beat the Bills' defense, it is actually running the football. They are 18th versus the run, and honestly, from a DVOA standpoint, it would say that their defense is a little bit overrated so far. They're only middle of the pack at number 16, so they're not really living up to the expectations of what we thought they were or what we thought that they could be. So far, the Bills defense has kind of been a little bit underwhelming from really the talent and some of the games that they have shown that they are very good. The Bills, though, the reason why I'm not absolutely saying that the Bills are going to absolutely cover this game is that the Bills they don't score a lot of points. They've only ever scored over 20 points 3 times this season. So they don't score a lot, which has me concerned that that's 10 points. That's a lot of points. That's 2 scores. It's a touchdown, an extra point, and a field goal. That's a lot of points to cover, even versus a team like the Redskins. I do think that the Bills have a massive coaching advantage in this game. My question is, can the Bills be able to take advantage of the secondary of the Redskins with big plays in the passing game? And they were not able to do that versus the Eagles, which has me also concerned that they can do that versus the Redskins, a secondary that's just as good as the Eagles, if not better. You know, the Redskins secondary isn't anything special, but the way the Eagles secondary was playing, you know, you would have thought that the Bills would have been able to make some plays. So the biggest matchup of the game, Scary Terry versus Tre'Davious White. That should be a very interesting one. Then when you flip it, like, if the Redskins aren't able to run the ball, I don't see any way that they really score over like 14 points in this game. So it's a difficult one for me to call. Really, you're counting on the Bills being able to score over 24 points, I would say, in this game. I think they possibly can. The way I am giving this pick to you right now is that if Haskins does play, I'll take the Bills both ways. If Case Keenum plays, though, I will take the Bills to win, but the Redskins to cover, just because I do not have enough faith in the Bills to be able to score enough points. That could definitely change in my pick, but overall, I think this game is going to be dominated by the Bills. I just don't know if the score is quite going to actually indicate that. So it's an interesting game, definitely, but the Bills need a bounce back game here. All right, one more, and then I'll get to the comment section. The Tennessee Titans at the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, it says -4 on the graphic. I saw -3.5 in some places, so it depends where you're looking at it as well. I think some of the places have moved it up to -4. My question is, what happened to the Panthers versus the 49ers? The 49ers dominated them up front on both sides of the ball. They were able to run the football at will last week. They were able to come out and just scheme their way down the field, and it really didn't seem like the Panthers had an answer for what Kyle Shanahan was throwing at them from an offensive perspective, and Luke Kuechly and those guys weren't able to adjust. On the offensive side of the ball, Kyle Allen, he looked like a backup. He looked like a second-year player. He looked like a player that is not named Cam Newton, just to be honest. He just didn't look like an NFL-caliber starter in that game. He was absolutely tormented by the defensive line of the 49ers. But this is a new week. The Panthers take on a new opponent, and to me, this is a big game for the Panthers. I really do believe that if they want to make the playoffs, they probably need to win this game. Honestly, this is a huge game for both teams, really. The Titans, they're 4-4. That AFC South is super tight. I just brought up the Jags maybe upsetting the Texans. And if the Titans are able to beat or upset the Panthers here in this game, that actually puts them in a position to contend for the division crown in this season, which I didn't think that would happen. The switch to Tannehill has actually really helped them. He's thrown 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception in 2 games that he's played. They've beat the Chargers and the Bucs in close games back-to-back with Ryan Tannehill, and it actually has been in a different form than the way that they were winning games with Marcus Mariota. They're actually scoring points. They've scored over 23 points in both games. They scored 27 versus Tampa Bay, and I believe 23 versus the Chargers. Not the greatest defenses in the world, but still better productivity from the quarterback and the passing game than we've seen with Marcus. So this team's definitely better with Tannehill at quarterback. The Panthers, they've struggled versus the ground game this season. We saw that versus the 49ers more than any other week, and we'll see if the Titans are able to take something out of that game plan and implement it here. But they're 27th versus the run this year, the Panthers are. Maybe they fix some of what they're doing wrong. I think a lot of it has to do with the injury to Kawan Short that's really hurting them. But overall, the Panthers have not had an answer for the run game in most games. When I looked at that Bucs-Titans game last week, I said to you guys that I thought that the Titans would have a difficult time covering Mike Evans. And I was right. I mean, Mike Evans had a monster game. In this game, I think it's a little bit different. I think the Titans secondary matches up a lot better versus Carolina than they did Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa has better receivers, but the main point I was trying to make was they have a lot of size at receiver, Tampa Bay, which gives the Titans secondary a lot of issues. Specifically, me being a Patriots fan, I always remember how Malcolm Butler and Logan Ryan had issues with bigger receivers, which I do not think that's going to be the case versus Carolina. They're probably going to play a lot better in this game. Adoree Jackson is still injured, so I'm not sure if he's going to play in this game. If he does, that's a big boost to their secondary. But I just believe overall they match up a lot better with DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel from a physical standpoint than they did versus Mike Evans and Godwin. The Panthers, an interesting point is that their defensive line is actually the second best in terms of adjusted sack rate in the league. So they're the second best in terms of getting after the quarterback in the NFL this year, only behind San Francisco. Jonnu Smith, I think, did a good job of replacing Walker last week, and honestly, he's playing just as good, if not better, than Delaney Walker. I think Christian McCaffrey, where he'll have his biggest impact on the game, of course, the guy that's in the MVP conversation, will not be on the ground, but I think will be through the air. Austin Eckler had a great game versus the Titans 2 weeks ago. I think he had over 100 yards and 7 catches. And actually, the Titans are allowing the most receptions to running backs this season, which I believe McCaffrey, if you have him on your fantasy team, you should look for him to have 10-plus catches in this game. This game's very, very interesting. It's in Carolina. Titans typically are much better at home. But I do think that the Titans defense will give Kyle Allen some issues in the passing game. I do think that the Panthers, if they can get a pass rush after Ryan Tannehill, could force a mistake or two from Tannehill and this passing game. I think that this game will be won by the Panthers, but I'm not absolutely convinced that the Titans cannot win this game. I think the Titans will keep this extremely close, and I honestly think the Titans could upset the Panthers, which is why I'm going to take the 4 points for this game and say that the Titans make this a field goal game in this one. So I'm going to take the Panthers to win because they're at home, because I feel like after being embarrassed by the 49ers that they're going to be able to come back with a bounce back effort before getting Cam Newton back in the lineup. For the Titans, I think that this is an interesting game as well. I just think the home field is a big determining factor here. And I just think when teams play the Patriots, the 49ers, the Saints, that's not actually how good or how bad they are. Those teams are just that good and make you look bad. So that's also what I'm taking out of this last week from the Panthers and saying that they will be better in this game versus the Titans. So I'm going to take the Panthers to win, but I will take the Titans to cover the 4 points, and I'll take the 4 points. All right, let's get to the comment section. I just saw that we had a super chat. I'll check that out in just a second. If you guys haven't already, Gronk spiked the like button. Thank you guys for being here live. Always appreciate it. Bodo with the donation. Thank you, Bodo. You're the man as always. He says he gives $20. Thank you for the $20, Bodo. The World Series Game 7, bad timing. I always do my picks at this time on Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern time, so that's just the way it goes. If you need to watch this after the fact, that's why I go live now, and you can watch it later. That's totally up to you guys, how and when you watch it. If you want to watch it live and you want to ask me a question live, far more likely that I respond than in the comments, but yeah. All right, so we're getting some score predictions here in the comments. If I missed your comment, make sure that you guys re-comment it below. Flame says, what's going on, Mitch? Kobe is giving a prediction of Texans 31, Jags 21. Rob is also on the Texans 24-17. Kevin says Texans win. Minshew is a fraud. The Niners aren't that good, says Turtle. Buffalo has the Jags winning 17-14. Free Flow is already predicting the game of the Patriots, which I'll get to later in an in-depth breakdown. So if you want to hear that one, that one's something else. Probably the most I've spent on a game just researching and doing things overall. Buffalo says, hey, Mitch, what about November 9th with LSU and Alabama? Well, I don't cover college football, but that should be a great game, and I'll probably be watching that game for sure. But, you know what, sometimes I don't really want to predict and for every sport and every game. Sometimes I just want to be a fan and watch it, and that's the case probably for that game. Buffalo 27-9, says Turtle. Bills take it 24-10. Kevin Durkant says 21-9. Bills. Kobe says, what else? Deshaun says Redskins might beat the Bills by a field goal, 17-14. KK says 24-3 Bills. Sebastian has the Bills 28-3. SCU says you're such a biased Patriots fan. Well, thank you for that great comment. I don't know if that was actually directed towards me or somebody else, but regardless, thank you for that. Factor Fiction, Buffalo clinches the playoffs in a wild card home game. They can't be at home if they're a wild card team. I'm not sure what you mean by that comment, but I do believe that the Bills will make the playoffs, if that's what you're asking. Turtle has the Titans winning 25-16. Kobe has the Texans 24-17. Panthers 34-17, says Rob. SCU asks, so what do you think will be the Super Bowl? What would be the best Super Bowl? And what would be the best walk-off Super Bowl for a player/players? What do I think the Super Bowl will be right now? I think the Super Bowl right now is going to be Patriots-Saints at the moment. That's my prediction. What would be the best Super Bowl? Probably, that's tough. I think it's between the Patriots and the Niners, or the Patriots and the Packers, just because of Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, and because of Garoppolo and Tom Brady and all the storylines that you can have there. I think is very interesting, and then also Brady versus his old, versus the where he grew up. I think there's a lot of storylines involved in Niners-Patriots, but I think Patriots-Packers would be very interesting just from a historical perspective. Saints and Patriots would be good as well, but I think just from an AFC perspective, it's Patriots versus NFC team. I don't think, maybe Mahomes versus, Rodgers would be cool to get the game that we didn't see on Sunday night. I think Kansas City would be the runner-up for best game in the Super Bowl, but I just feel like the Patriots involve the best storylines. Maybe that's me being a biased Patriots fan like you called me. Best walk-off, I think, would probably be Tom Brady retiring or Drew Brees retiring and winning. Probably one of those, but probably the best would be Tom Brady retiring, and maybe even Bill Belichick as well. But I don't think Bill Belichick will retire anytime soon. All right. What else do we have here? Tannehill has been better since leaving Miami, actually. Bodo gives another $19.99. He says, by the way, Gronk spiked the like button. Listen to Bodo. He knows best. Gronk spiked the like button. Jacob says Super Bowl 49 rematch. I don't think it has the same luster because I don't think Seattle has the same defense that it did back then, so I don't really feel like it has that same luster of Brady versus Legion of Doom, or Legion of Boom, sorry, not Legion of Doom. I'm thinking of wrestling here. The thing is, though, you could maybe flip that storyline depending on how the Patriots defense is playing on Patriots defense versus Russell Wilson if Wilson's the MVP. So maybe there's storylines there depending on what happens. Who do you blame for the Bears losing, I think is what he's trying to say. He says, who do you blame for the Bears lost? But I think he says losing. So Mitchell Trubisky, Eddie Pinheiro, or Matt Nagy. Thank you, Sebastian, for the question. The game, I'm specifically talking about the Chargers. That's tough. I think Pinheiro obviously is directly responsible because if he makes the kick, then this is the political answer. If he makes the kick, then they win. But I don't think it's actually Panero's fault for them losing, because I think Matt Nagy should have taken more of a chance to get them closer to kick the field goal, and then Panero to make it. Trubisky has been bad all year, so he's at least part of the blame. I think it's mostly Matt Nagy and Mitchell Trubisky put together, because I think Trubisky has played poorly and has not executed the offense the way Matt Nagy wants him to. I think Nagy has not been the best in terms of play calling, game planning, getting the best out of his offense, although I did like that they ran the ball more in that game. The red zone offense was really, really bad in that game, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and his blunder late in the game obviously cost them in that game as well. Okay, guys. I'm going to get back to the predictions. Okay, that's the Panthers game. All right. New York Jets versus Kevin Durant's Miami Dolphins. They're also known as the Lolfins because they are hilarious. All right, the New York Jets. Where is this breakdown? I have so many notes this week. I just want to share them all with you guys. So the Jets are -3 in this game. I want to say, first off, let's credit Le'Veon Bell for the video he put out after reportedly maybe being traded. I want to credit Le'Veon Bell for being a leader in that situation, for taking the right approach and going on social media and addressing the situation before anything else happened. So that was good on Le'Veon Bell. He's gotten kind of a bad reputation for his last days in Pittsburgh, but I think Le'Veon Bell overall is a good dude to have on your football team. And honestly, if I was the Jets, I probably wouldn't be trying to trade him after I just paid him all that money. The Jets are banged up on both sides of the football. They have Ryan Khalil missing on the offensive line. Overall, their offensive line in general, with Kelechi Osemele and that whole situation, is just gone into the absolute trash can. Their defense is banged up. CJ Mosley is hurt. Tremaine Johnson is injured. The Jets, they were massively disappointing to me versus the Jacksonville Jags. I thought they would do a lot better. I thought that game would be a lot closer. The Finns have been more competitive as of late. They were beating the Steelers, and the Steelers made a comeback in that game and were forced to actually try and make an effort to beat the Dolphins, which is impressive. And then they were close versus the Bills the week before that. So the Dolphins have been improving, at least in terms of their competitiveness. I've said this for the past couple of weeks, but it definitely has shown up. I believe that Sam Darnold, if he's seeing ghosts in this game, it's not going to be the boogeyman, but Brian Flores is definitely going to take a page out of Bill Belichick's book. So if anybody is going to test Sam Darnold on these blitz pickups and having people get after him, it's definitely going to be Brian Flores, because he comes from that Bill Belichick school. They're going to attack him, and they're going to see if they're up to snuff with their blitz pickups. So I definitely think that if the Finns are successful on defense, it's because they're able to create some pressure versus Sam Darnold, and therefore creating some mistakes. Xavier Howard, I believe, is hurt. I do not think he's going to be playing in this game. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I do not think he's going to be playing. Regardless, though, I think the best receiver with the best matchup in this game is Jamison Crowder in the slot. Juju Smith-Schuster was torching the Dolphins from the slot, and a lot of teams have torched the Dolphins from the slot overall this year, and Crowder should see a big game in this one versus the Dolphins. The Finns, they will have to, I believe, pass the ball to have success, because the Jets are much better defending the run than they are the pass, especially if Tremaine Johnson misses this game. But with Fitzpatrick, they've shown with Devontae Parker and Williams that they have been able to have spurts of success in that regard in their game. So I could see this being Fitzpatrick's best game of the season. I would not be shocked by that. And then Le'Veon Bell. I expect this to be the best game of his season. I expect Le'Veon Bell to be the show. I expect this to be a Le'Veon Bell game, and I expect Le'Veon Bell to be the reason why the Jets win this game and the reason why the Jets cover. Now, I think this game could be the Dolphins' win this season, but I also think if the Jets were to lose, it would be a complete embarrassment. I think Adam Gase would be absolutely fired right away. But I am going to go with the Jets to win. I'm going to go with the Jets, despite their injuries, to cover this game, because I do think that they'll have enough on offense to be able to move the ball. And I do think that their defense is it's more talented than the Dolphins' offense. I just think the Dolphins, in every single game they go into this season, they're going to be the least talented team. And for you to pick them to have, to win a game is going to be absolutely crazy to me. So even if I think there is a slight chance of the Dolphins winning this game, I cannot take that chance. I'm going to take the Jets to win, and I'm going to take the Jets to cover. I think they should win by a touchdown, at the very least. All right. In the next game, the Chicago Bears head to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. We were talking about Trubisky, Nagy, Panero. Whose fault is it? What's going on in Chicago? Well, this week, I don't think it's a good week to be heading to Philadelphia. I just think the Eagles are heading and trending upward. They're getting better. They played their best game of the season versus Buffalo in Buffalo, dismantling the Bills. And the Bears, they're trending downward. There's dysfunction. There's rumors of Nagy and Trubisky, and Nagy constantly nagging on Trubisky. And just the overall relationship between the city and the team and the disappointment that is surrounding this football team. I just think it's starting to get to them. And I just don't think this is a good spot for the Bears, specifically with this matchup. Now, the Bears, offensively, they are a disaster. Their quarterback play from Trubisky has been abysmal, and the play calling from Nagy has not been much better, especially in the red zone, where it was absolutely horrendous. The Bills, they couldn't take advantage of the Eagles' secondary, and I do not think that Trubisky will be able to do that either, which has me saying, hey, the Eagles, they get another game where they do not play a quarterback where they can take advantage of the deep ball or hitting big plays versus this secondary. So that makes me say Eagles will be able to stop the run. They'll be able to do Jim Schwartz will be able to do some creative things defensively, and their defense should play well in this game and not give up very many big plays or points. The Eagles, it seems like they found a little bit of their identity offensively. They had a ground game versus Buffalo. They used a lot of 2 tight end sets. And potentially getting Deshaun Jackson back, I think, will stress out defenses even more than they have. This is 2 top 10 run defenses in the league going head-to-head. There is a lot of familiarity between the coaches. Peterson and Nagy, they come from the same school of the Andy Reid tree. They run a lot of the same type of offense, same sort of plays. So they should have a beat on each other and what they are doing. I think these teams overall, the Bears, they lost to the Chargers despite having 15 more first downs and 16 more minutes of possession. That's just horrible. How do you lose a game in that way? That's just one of the worst losses of this season, if you ask me. They controlled the game with their rushing attack, and I do not believe they'll be able to do that versus Philadelphia, which means Trubisky will be forced to pass, and I just haven't seen him from it. I haven't seen it from him for me to say that I can pick them to win this game. The Eagles are at home. They are on grass where they're undefeated this season, and they will win and they will cover. I'm taking the Eagles both ways, and I actually don't mind this bet whatsoever. All right. My next game is the Indianapolis Colts at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Colts are, to me, the better team, and it's a pick'em. The Steelers, they are at home, though, which has me say that this would probably be the Colts -3 at home. The Steelers are playing better, though, specifically on defense. In the first half of the Dolphins game, don't know what was going on there. Sometimes that happens when you have a backup quarterback playing, and if that happens versus the Colts, there's no way they win this game, but I don't think that's going to happen 2 weeks in a row where they just come out and they look rusty. The Colts, they are not a team of the past, like one of these Colts teams of the past where they're a finesse team and they're not a power team, they're not a physical team, and they're not a team that cannot play on grass. We've seen that the Colts are, their identity now is to be a running team. Their identity now is to play through their offensive line. Their identity now is to beat you up offensively. So I do not believe that the Colts are going to go to Pittsburgh and it's just going to be a totally different team, because this is not the Colts of the Manning days or even the early Luck days where they were all about scoring a lot of points through the air. This is a much more balanced football team. This is a much better coach team. And by the way, Reich has the advantage over Tomlin. Reich is a game plan coach. Tomlin is a more raw, do what we do type of guy. Reich is more likely to have the game plan that gives his team the advantage over a Mike Tomlin. I think this is going to be a fantastic battle between the Colts offensive line and the Steelers defensive line. The Steelers are third in adjusted sack rate this season, which means they get the third most pressure in the league. And this offensive line, we have seen that the Colts offensive line is able to neutralize pass rushes and actually control and win games. The Steelers are actually the number one team in terms of offensive lines in giving up the least amount of pressure in the league. So that's something interesting. We knew that they were a good offensive line coming into the season. Early on, they kind of struggled a little bit. Maybe that was just the Patriots. But their offensive line has bounced back and they've played very well. Since getting Darius Leonard back, the Colts, their run defense has been much better, which should come in handy versus Connor or whoever's running the ball for the Steelers in that game. The Colts to me, need to figure out how they're going to stop the running game and Juju. Juju has been a lot better in recent weeks and has played a lot better, and teams have really given up a lot of plays to him in recent weeks. I have the Colts winning this game by 3 or 4 points. I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to be definitely a one-score game. I just think that it's just going to be a stalemate between the offensive and defensive lines of both teams. I think that it really comes down to the Colts' ability to stop James Conner and force Mason Rudolph to throw the ball in awkward situations. And I think it comes down to Jacoby Brissett's ability to get time in the pocket. If the Colts are able to block the Steelers, which I think they'll be able to do, I think Frank Reich will come up with a game plan where they're able to move the ball through the air versus this Steelers defense. So at the end of the day, I'm going to take the Colts just because I think they have the coaching advantage. I think they are the better team, and I think they are riding the momentum. And Jacoby Brissett, more so than a guy like Rudolph, has shown the ability for 3 or 4 plays a game to make a special play like he did escaping from Von Miller and making that throw to T.Y. Hilton, and I think that might be the difference in this game. So I'm going with the Colts to win a close one, the Steelers losing another close game. The Detroit Lions and the Oakland Raiders. I do believe that I actually may have skipped a game depending on if I do not have the graphic here. I'm trying to find it. I don't know if I have it. Yeah, I think I might have skipped it. Yep. All right, so let me quickly talk about... Can't find it. I guess I didn't make it, guys. Yeah, okay. So, the one game I'm talking about is the Chiefs and the Vikings. But I was going to say that I'm not willing to pick this game yet. Like, this is a game I'm just not able to break down properly because Patrick Mahomes, we don't know if he's playing or not. Now, he's doubtful, so we don't exactly know. We figure that he's not going to be playing in this game. To me, when I look at this game, whether Patrick Mahomes was playing or not, this was going to be a difficult matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs to win because this is a horrible matchup on paper for the Chiefs. Like, even if Mahomes played, you look at it and it's intriguing from the standpoint of, even if Matt Moore's in there, how far has the Chiefs defense come? Because I've said, and even in my top 10 video, I said I've been impressed with the Chiefs defense. They've played better. They played better versus the run. They played better in terms of their pass rush specifically. And, with their pass rush getting after quarterbacks, it's been a lot better. So this is a game to see how far the Chiefs defense has come. The Chiefs, they've allowed the second most yards per game to running backs this season. And Dalvin Cook is a top 3 running back in the sport right now. And they're allowing, I believe, the most or the second most fantasy points to running backs, which means combined receptions, receiving yards, rushing yards. They're going to get the ball to Dalvin Cook a lot, and he's going to probably be successful, which means that's going to open up the Vikings passing attack. Whenever the Vikings are able to run the ball with success with Dalvin Cook, we've seen that Kirk Cousins with his play action is able to have success. So if they're having to commit to Dalvin Cook in the box and stopping him, then Diggs and Thielen are going to have a field day versus these corners who are not very good. So you have to pick your poison if you're the Chiefs. Do you just sell out and hope that you can make some stops versus Kirk Cousins and force some mistakes, and you just say, hey, Dalvin Cook's not beating us and we'll take our chances? Or do we play very soft and we say, okay, we're going to let Dalvin Cook run the ball, but we're going to keep this game close because, yeah, you can run the ball on us, but we're not going to give you the big play in the running game or the passing game, and we're just going to make you execute in the red zone. So I think there's an interesting strategy that the Chiefs have to come up with from a defensive standpoint because they have not played an offense like this in a while where it's going to completely stress them out from both perspectives. Now, the Packers were in that way as well, but the Packers did not have the receivers where it's really a threat on the outside because they were without Devontae Adams. So that's interesting. I think this game's very interesting. I would have loved to have seen Patrick Mahomes play in this game because I think it would have been an awesome game to watch. But I'm picking the Vikings if Mahomes isn't there. If Mahomes is there for whatever reason, I might slide to the Chiefs just because they're at home and because they have Patrick Mahomes and because they have the full complement of offensive weapons. And I actually do think this is going to be challenging for the Vikings defense to defend them because I think Tyreek Hill is instantly an issue for this defense. They don't really have the speed to cover Tyreek Hill. And in the past, Zimmer's defense has shown, like, versus guys like McVay's offense last year, there were times last year where teams were able to scheme up big play opportunities, and I could see Andy Reid scheming up one or two big plays in this game for Matt Moore or for Patrick Mahomes, and I think with the full complement of weapons, it's really going to stress out the Vikings defense overall. But if the Vikings can find a way to stop the run without having, just stopping the run with their front four, and then being able to get a pass rush, which is absolutely key, and hopefully forcing some mistakes, that can definitely help them out. The Vikings, they are 10th in adjusted sack rate this season, 8th in defensive DVOA, so they're still a top 10 defense. And Zimmer, if he can get a good read on you, I think it's interesting because Andy Reid, he, as creative as I just said he can be, he can also be very predictable at times, specifically one-dimensional. He doesn't like to run the ball. He's very pass-heavy. So if Zimmer is on his P's and Q's and does come up with a good game plan, he definitely could give the Vikings a very good game plan defensively to the point where they're just saying, we know you're not going to run the ball, and we're going to be all over every concept you want to do through the air, and we're going to commit 2 guys to Tyreek Hill, and we're going to, just clog up the rest of the field with zones, and we're going to force you to make some mistakes. So I think this is interesting. I think the Vikings win, but it's a completely different game if Mahomes plays. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But that's my breakdown as much as I could without a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who's a complete game changer, not being in the game. So back to the regular scheduled programming. Where was I? There we are. Detroit Lions versus the Oakland Raiders. This game is the sneaky game of the week. This is a very interesting game. Because I feel like this is going to be exciting. I think this is going to be a very exciting game. If you want to tune into a game that's sneaky, that not a lot of people are probably paying attention to, but, you want a good game to watch, it's probably this one. Because, Matt Stafford's going to give you a good game more times than not. And John Gruden is going to give you a good game more times than not. And I think these two teams, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. And this is why. So, the second best offensive line in the league from a pass blocking efficiency standpoint is the Oakland Raiders. And this is even with the injuries they have had up front. They are playing the 26th pass rushing team in the league in Detroit. On the flip side, the Lions have the 10th best pass rushing efficiency line in the league, or pass blocking, efficiency line in the league, versus the 23rd best pass rushing team in the Raiders. So these are 2 top offensive lines, 2 top 10 offensive lines in the league versus 2 bottom pass rushing teams in the league. So that means that both quarterbacks, Carr and Stafford, should have a lot of time to make decisions and should both have good games, which I think leads to this game being a shootout in this game. Detroit has also been in quite a few shootouts as of late. The Vikings, they played the Giants, which was a semi-shootout. The Raiders have been in some shootouts as of late versus the Texans and the Packers. So both teams have been scoring a lot of points and giving up a lot of points. The Lions, they have better receivers than the Raiders do. I think they'll be able to torch a very torchable secondary in the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders are the 6th worst versus wide receivers this season and allowing the 6th most yards this season to wide receivers. And Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, all playing big roles for this offense, especially with Kerryon Johnson out. The Lions have relied a lot more on their quarterback and a lot more on passing the ball, and I think they would do so versus the Raiders. The Raiders, I believe, where they have the advantage is not only through the air, where they should have an advantage versus the 32nd pass defense in the league in the Lions, but they also, I think, can run the ball and control the clock, which John Gruden has been doing quite frequently this season. His game plan has been to control the clock and control the time of possession and dictate pace of play as much as possible, which is where I feel like the Patricia and Gruden matchup is going to be very, very intriguing. The Lions are the worst team in the NFL versus running backs. They are 26th versus the run overall. So Jacobs should have a big game here. And the Raiders' offensive line should be able to move the Detroit defensive line and should be able to create some lanes in the running game. The Lions, they rank 10th versus tight ends. So also Waller has a top 10 matchup in this game to have a pretty good game. Hudson and Glasgow, both guys that play in the interior of their offensive lines, are both probably out for this game. So those are two big losses on the offensive lines, which I just said are so big and so good for both teams. I just want to mention that both of these quarterbacks are playing really fantastic football, and I think will again. Now, who am I picking in this game? I think it's going to be very close. I could easily pick the Lions in this game, but I am going to take the Raiders -2, and I'm going to take them to win this game. And the biggest reason is, I said it before, I think there's 3 big reasons. Okay, the first one's simple. They're at home. The Raiders play better at home, and most teams do, but the Raiders in the black hole, it's actually sneakily one of the better home environments in the league, and they have played better if you look at their schedule and their victories. They've played better at home. Second, John Gruden is a coach that wants to have the time of possession and is going to game plan so that Matt Stafford is not on the field as much as possible because he understands his defense isn't very good. And the Raiders' offense, even with the losses that they sustained, has looked very good. And, Tyrell Williams is back in the lineup, is healthy. And I think Patricia's defense, the way he coaches defense, is very bend but don't break, which is very susceptible to staying on the field for a long period of time. It's not a very aggressive defense, which means that Gruden should be able to scheme up ways to keep his offense on the field, which is a big concern for me if I'm a Lions fan. And the third thing is they can actually run the ball better than the Lions, straight up. I just think the Raiders are a better running offense than the Lions, which I think in that way is going to help them dictate the game. So that's why I am going with the Raiders to win this game and to cover the 2 points. Okay. I like that game. I like that game a lot. I wouldn't be shocked if the Lions won if Matt Stafford pulled it out of his hat, but I think that game's going to be really, really good. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are -6.5 points. If you like passing, you will love this game. You need to tune into this game because this is going to be another shootout, in my opinion, this week. The Hawks are 27th versus the pass this season. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 31st. The interesting matchup here is the coaching battle between Arians and Carroll. Two guys that know each other very well, two guys that have had kind of a rivalry in the past when Arians was in Arizona. They're usually very close games between both of those coaches' teams. I think that Jameis Winston's going to have another fantastic fantasy day, so if you're able to pick him up in fantasy, he should have another great game. Godwin and Evans should have another nice day, and they've been carving up secondaries with regularity. The 2 worst pass rushing defensive lines in the NFL, 2 of the worst in the NFL. You have Tampa Bay at 24th and Seattle at 27th. So not only are these teams bad at defending the pass, but both teams that traditionally, from a passing standpoint, offensively, don't have the best offensive lines or don't get the most time in the world, Russell Wilson Seahawks and Jameis Winston's Tampa Bay Bucks offensive lines, they're going to be able to at least have more time than usual because both of these defensive lines don't get a heck of a lot of pressure. So both of these quarterbacks should have the time to be able to execute some big plays down the field. Now, the interesting part to me is that the Bucks are first versus the run in the league. They're first. They're number one, which means that it might be a little bit more difficult for the Hawks to run the ball than they traditionally are able to with Chris Carson and their running game. My question is Schottenheimer and this offense and this game plan going to recognize that and put the ball in Wilson's hands? If they do that and they run the ball less than usual, they will win this game. If they try and pound the ball with consistency just to run the ball and it's not working, they might get upset in this game. I think this game is close. The Hawks are coming off a less than stellar win versus Atlanta. Matt Schaub had 450 yards in that game, even if some of it was in garbage time. I don't really care. Jameis Winston's going to throw for a lot of yardage, a couple touchdowns. I'm going with Seattle to win just because Russell Wilson is far more likely to not mess the game up. Jameis Winston is far more likely to mess the game up than Russell Wilson. But I think the Bucks can move the ball. I think the Bucks can score, and I also think the Bucks can defend the run better, which makes this game close. But it's just Russell Wilson that's able to win this and sneak this one out. So I have the Hawks winning a close one at home. I will take the Tampa Bay Bucks though, plus the 6.5. The Cleveland Browns at the Broncos. This is interesting because Baker Mayfield is not happy. He's not a happy camper. If you guys saw the interview, it wasn't a press conference, the interview, he was not a very happy man. Baker Mayfield is not happy because they've been losing. Joe Flacco, he's not happy either because he's hurt. This coaching matchup is one of the worst in the NFL that you could possibly have, in my opinion. The Browns, they have been able to run the ball versus every team in the NFL. They've played the Ravens run defense, which is second in the league. They ran on them. They played the Patriots. They ran on them. Number 4 run defense. They played the Niners. They ran on them. Another top 5 run defense. They ran on the Seahawks. I mean, they ran on all the good teams they've played. It doesn't matter. They've ran the ball a lot well. Nick Chubb is a beast. And really, Kitchens, if he does anything well, he's good at scheming up the run game. So they're going to be able to run the ball versus the Broncos. And the Broncos have been susceptible to giving up yards on the ground. They're 19th versus the run. They're like 4th or 5th versus the pass. My matchup of the game is definitely OBJ versus Chris Harris. That will be a lot of fun to watch. Myles Garrett should dominate this game fully, frequently, and the Browns' defensive line actually played pretty well versus the Patriots' offensive line, so if they play that well versus the Patriots, I think they'll dominate the Broncos, who are 28th in pass blocking efficiency. Von Miller could also have a good game, but I think that the Browns have done a better job since changing at tackle some of their players around and flipping some of their players around. I think their offensive line is slightly better than the Broncos, and they're, like I said, they're a really good run blocking offensive line. The Browns also have their starting corners back, as we saw versus the Patriots. Without Sanders, I think a lot of teams across the league will be able to double team or put their focus on Cortland Sutton, which doesn't help. And also put more guys in the box versus Phillip Lindsay and Freeman. If the Broncos do win this game, I think it's because their run game takes over. The Browns are 29th versus the run in the league. It might be a little bit misleading because they've played a lot of dynamic rushing attacks like the Ravens and like the Seahawks and like the Niners and even like the Patriots. So they've played a lot of good offenses. So that might be a little bit misleading in them being 29th versus the run. But nonetheless, if the Broncos win this game, they probably because they run for a lot of yards. But as long as the Browns play at their pace, as long as they run the ball, as long as they do not have foolish turnovers, they do not take a lot of penalties, then they should win this game actually pretty handily. I'm going to say that the Browns win by 10 points in this game, so they cover the 3, and they win the game on the road in Denver, and they get one win back on track to maybe being second in this division. All right, one more game, then I'm going to get to the comment section before I go to the Patriots game. The Green Bay Packers at the LA Chargers. This game, I think this is pretty obvious. I was actually kind of surprised by the spread. I think it started at 3.5 for the Packers. It's now up to 4. I think the Packers easily win this game versus the Chargers. The Chargers, first off, it's in LA, but they have no home field. There'll be way more Packers fans there than there'll be Chargers fans. The Packers' interior defensive line is their biggest weakness. They cannot stop the run very well, and period. They had Zadarius Smith playing as like a defensive end in a 3-4. So if you can imagine that, that's an outside linebacker trying to play as a big boy inside. That's how bad it's gotten. That's how desperate they are to stop people in the middle versus a run. I just don't think the Chargers are able to take advantage of it. I don't think Melvin Gordon has been playing well. I don't think their run game is good enough. They're too inconsistent to run the ball. They're 5th worst in adjusted line yards offensively, which means the yards that you get from just your offensive line without your running back really doing anything. They've not been good in that category, which shows how good your offensive line is in blocking. It's one of the worst in the league. The Packers, on the other side, should be able to run the ball. They should be able to pound the ball. Aaron Jones has been phenomenal in the passing game, the receiving game, and in the rushing game. I think he could have another big game in the receiving game here if he has 1 or 2 big plays, because the Chargers, they do what they do defensively. They don't mix it up a lot, and I think that's absolutely asking for Aaron Rodgers to pick apart your defense, because the Packers, they can pass block, they can protect versus Joey Bosa and those guys up front. That can allow for Rodgers to have the time to be able to recognize a defense, pick apart a defense, and have a big game, just the same way he did versus the Raiders and some of these teams that just play very simple coverages and don't do a lot of things to try and confuse him or just at least trying to make him hesitate. Once an elite quarterback like Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, these very smart guys that have been around the league a long time, when they know what defense you're in, you're pretty much toast. And that's exactly what the Chargers do defensively, which puts them in a very bad spot versus a team and a quarterback like Rodgers. The Chargers, I think offensively, they'll have their most success with Henry and Williams. The Packers have allowed the 7th most yards to wide receivers. A lot of them have gone to the 2nd and the 3rd target, so Mike Williams should have a decent game. And the 6th worst defense versus tight ends, so Henry should continue his streak of having good games. The Packers, I think, should win this one pretty easily, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers actually are able to run or are able to move the ball in this game. I think it really depends on those players I just brought up, Williams, Henry, and it also depends on how well the Chargers block the Packers. But because it's not in Lambeau, even though it's still a home game for the Packers, it should be a little bit easier to do so. I'm going to say the Packers win a game like 31-21, something like that, something of that nature, 31-20. Rivers, the Packers probably go up early. Rivers has a surge, and then the Packers extend their lead. It's never really in jeopardy for the Packers, but Rivers always kind of makes it interesting. That's the kind of game that I think is going to go down here in week number 9. All right, so before the Sunday nighter, before the big breakdown of the week, let's get back to the comments and let's see what you guys are saying. And this predictions preview is actually going longer than usual. All right, guys. Gronk spiked the like button if you haven't already. Robot Guy says Hawks because Winston. Kobe says Hawks 28, Bucks 24. Kevin Durcan is saying that he plays Bodo in fantasy this week. Bodo says that Seattle wins in the last moment 24-23. Some people are betting on Bodo to beat Kevin Durcan in fantasy, which is always fun. The Conspiracy Realist says, FYI, the 49ers defense is now called the Niner Zone. They'll be subject to annihilation. Is that official? Is that an official thing? Browns are going to win, says The Slayer, Kevin Durkant, says, give me the Browns 20-7. Rob says 17-10. Browns. Everyone's picking the Brownies. Bodo says, Broncos are going to win. Baker is a whiner, 24-13. KK has the Browns 16-9. KK says Myles Garrett versus Garrett Bowles with laughing faces. How does Pat McAfee say Browns? How does he say it? The Sea Chickens. Packers will crush. People are saying Packers 59-3, Packers 27-3, Packers 38-20, Packers 34-14. Wow. All right. Is Devontae Adams playing? That's my question. It doesn't really matter for whether if they're winning or not, but I'm just wondering if he's going to play. Busboy says, I just played you in fantasy and beat you by 4 points. Yes, you did, unfortunately. Who do I think won the trade deadline? I think every team that got a good player. Nah. I think contenders like the Niners and the Patriots, they were able to get some receivers. They won the trade deadline. I'm trying to think of all the moves. Obviously, the Rams upgraded with Ramsey, but that was a hefty price to pay. I actually felt like a lot of the trades were very even. Like, none of them were very out of whack or one-sided. I really felt like a lot of the trades were very even. And you can go back and look at those videos I made for each independent trade and really see, like, I felt like there was good on both sides. All right, let's get to it. It's Patriot-Raven time. Patriot-Raven time. Guys, let's Gronk spike the like button just for this breakdown of the Patriots and the Ravens. Okay, where is my graphic? Is this it? Nope. This one. All right. Patriots are -3.5. The game is in Baltimore. The Patriots are the best defense the Ravens have played by far all year. The Ravens are the best offense the Patriots have played by far all year. The Baltimore Ravens are coming off of a bye. John Harbaugh's Ravens traditionally have given Bill Belichick's Patriots a little bit of issues. Now, the Patriots have actually not lost to the Ravens since Ray Lewis retired. That's something to put out into the world, which a lot of people seem to think that the Ravens have beat them more recently than that, but that's not been the case. With Lamar Jackson at quarterback, these two teams have never played. They did not play last year, and they have yet to play this year until this moment. The Patriots have won a consecutive 22 games versus quarterbacks in their first or second year, which is ridiculous. We'll have to see if Lamar Jackson can break that trend. Statistically, the Ravens, they're second in yards and points. They're first in rushing. The Patriots' defense is first in yards. They are first in points. They are fourth in rushing. And they are first in pass defense. The Patriots are first in points, time of possession, and yards on D. And the Ravens are first in points, time of possession, and yards on offense per drive. Pretty interesting. So we have the best offense in the league, statistically, versus the best defense in the league, statistically, which I don't think is really being hyped up enough. I don't think that's been a big enough storyline. I mean, Lamar Jackson, Ravens versus Patriots, two top teams in the AFC. That's been hyped up, the history between the two teams. But we have not been given this storyline of best offense versus best defense enough credit yet. Maybe it's only Wednesday, so maybe I'm the first to throw it out there into the world. But this is happening right now. Best offense versus best defense in most important metrics. If there is a weakness to the Patriots defense, we saw it this past week. Okay, they played the Browns, And the Browns were able to run the ball with some success with Nick Chubb in that game. Now, it's hard to know whether that was because the Patriots, and I know this is going to sound funny to some people, but it's hard to know whether the Patriots kind of let them run the ball. And what I mean by that is the way that the Patriots played defense, like the personnel that they put on the field. Was it to stop the pass or was it to stop the run? And to me, it was more to stop the pass, to contain Odell, to stop Jarvis Landry, than it was to stop Nick Chubb, just from the way that you watch the game and see it progress. Now, I'm also going to say that the Ravens, they could have some success in more of traditional heavy sets. Because looking at the Patriots roster, I don't believe that they're as big as they've traditionally been on the front seven of their defense. Like, they have Lawrence Guy and Danny Shelton. They have Dietrich Wise. They have these big linebackers like Hightower and Van Noy and Collins. But, like, even in the past, they've had, like big people where it's just been like, you cannot run the ball up the middle versus this defense. So I feel like if the Ravens, if they're able to win this game, we're going to come back and we're going to say the Ravens were able to run the ball. The Ravens were able to dictate pace of play. The Ravens were able to make it hard for the Patriots and stress out the Patriots in terms of the Ravens were very balanced. And it allowed the whole playbook to be open for the Ravens. And that's usually when we see the Patriots defense struggle the most over the course of their history, is when teams have been able to be very balanced. They've been able to open up holes in the run game, but then off of the run game, they've been able to torch them through the air, like, for example, the Eagles Super Bowl game. Now, this is a totally different Patriots defense. This is a historic unit. This is the best defense in the league. Till this point, this is the best scoring defense we've ever seen in NFL history. And like I said earlier, this is the fourth best rush defense in the league from that standpoint. And I do think that it's going to be very intriguing to see how the Patriots match up with their personnel versus the Ravens' personnel. Are they going to use bear fronts? So are they going to put three big guys in the middle and put safeties and corners behind it? Sort of like what they did versus the Rams. Because Belichick said this in his press conference. The hard part about defending the Ravens is you have to worry about their tight end sets, their heavy sets, them able to run the ball down your throat, while also being able to contain the speed of Lamar Jackson, the speed of Marquise Brown, and the skill of Mark Andrews. So you have to factor in both facets. That's what makes them the number one offense in the league right now, is because they're stressing out defenses, and no defense that they've played to this point has been able to play in one style of defense that's able to take away their strengths in both facets. Now, the Seahawks actually did a pretty good job. You know, the Seahawks, they allowed 2 defensive touchdowns by the Ravens. The Ravens actually weren't overly successful on offense. The Steelers had some success defending the Ravens. Mostly, though, the Ravens have had a lot of success in that personnel where they've played 2 or 3 tight ends, and they've been able to pass out of those packages and been able to beat teams down the field. But also, it's just the dynamic element of Lamar Jackson and his legs, which is so hard to defend. Because you want to have enough big people to defend Mark Ingram in the inside run, but you also want to have enough speed to defend Lamar Jackson on the edge. And that's really where teams are being burnt, is maybe they're defending Mark Ingram in the inside, but then they're being burnt by the speed of Lamar Jackson and not really taking into account how fast and freakish he really is. So that's the interesting part to me, is how the Patriots, how they match up. And just an inclination or like a thought is I think that they're going to line up in a bear sort of front, where they have Danny Shelton on the nose, they have Lawrence Guy and Dietrich Wise in the inside of their defense, they have Van Noy and Collins, or Van Noy and Hightower on the edge, and they have Collins at middle linebacker, and I'm thinking that Chung will play in the box, and I'm thinking that maybe it will be Chung or Collins that's at all times spying Lamar Jackson. I think on pass plays, their main thing is going to be like a mush rush sort of pass rush where they're staying in their lanes. And we've seen this before from the Patriots. We saw it last year versus Aaron Rodgers. And we saw it versus Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship. And we saw it this year, which I think is going to be the most similar game plan, is how they played Josh Allen. Josh Allen's a very good running quarterback. And what they did versus Josh Allen, it was actually something I've almost never seen before. Literally, this is what they did. So, Josh Allen would stay in the pocket, and every time the play would break down, he would escape. So, the Patriots knew this. So, what they would do was, they literally would rush up the middle, but their edge players would not rush at all. They would just stand there. And then once Josh Allen could not see anyone getting open in the secondary, because the Patriots have such good corners that they're able to do this, which is unique to the Patriots defense, they did not release their ends to rush the quarterback until Allen decided to run or to escape to the outside. So I think what's going to happen is the Patriots will do just that. They'll rush up the middle, but they will, on the edge, play very conservative so that they're almost extremely containing Lamar Jackson to make a throw in the pocket. And once he decides to use his athleticism, they will chase him down from there. So that's what I think the Patriots will do from that standpoint up front. The matchups are interesting on that side of the ball as well. And I'm far more interested in that side of the ball because I just think it's so fascinating from an X's and O's and nerdy standpoint than it is on the other side of the ball, but I will get to that side of the ball in just a second. I think that Andrews, if I was the Patriots, I would put Stephon Gilmore on Andrews as much as possible on third down. Every big third down that I would put Gilmore on Andrews. Because I think if you put Gilmore on Andrews, you put Jonathan Jones on Marquise Brown. It's a speed-on-speed matchup. Jonathan Jones, number 2 corner by PFF this year, one of the best slot corners in the league. And then you can put Jason McCourty on Willie Snead. You don't have to worry about that. J.C. Jackson can go on Miles Boykin. I think there's really, really good matchups from the Patriots' perspective in that matchup. So I don't think this is the first defense that the Ravens are playing where they're not going to be afraid of allowing Marquise Brown to beat them over the top because they have the corners where they can just say, hey, we're not worried about that. You know, he might be able to run past other teams, but we don't think he can run past us. And I think on third down, they're going to get creative in the way that they confuse Lamar Jackson as they have other younger quarterbacks in the past. Now, how do you beat that if you're a Ravens offense? How do you beat this defense? I mean, again, I think it comes with the running game. I think you have to run the ball, just out of necessity. Even if it's not working, you need to be balanced. You need to maintain your balance. And you will be able to hit odd runs here and there. I think you need to come up with things that they have not seen this season. I think you need to come up with different plays, things that you have not put in your playbook yet. I think you need to, if they're not going to match up Gilmore or if they're going to line up like McCourty or Chung on Andrews, you need to attack that tight end matchup as much as possible because that's the way to move the ball. And the thing with the Ravens is they also don't really have a running back that's good in the receiving game, so that takes away from a facet where you could potentially beat the Patriots. It's going to be very difficult for the Ravens to beat the Patriots scoring. It's going to be very hard. I don't know how many points they're going to score. I'm going to say somewhere between 13 and 17, but I just don't think it's going to be a lot. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be a lot on Lamar Jackson to make things happen. So that's what I want to say on that side. I do also want to say one interesting statistic I came over was, Lamar was 9 for 20 for 150 yards passing versus the Seahawks. So if you eliminate that running, which he's still going to run, but if you eliminate the dangerous element of it, you can beat the Ravens. The other side of the ball is interesting as well because how can the Ravens make Tom Brady uncomfortable? Isaiah Wynn is not going to be playing in this game. He's not back until week 12. So the left tackle of the Patriots is out. Newhouse has been in there. He's been okay. He's been serviceable, but he's not been great. Isaiah Wynn's good, but they have not had a left tackle. Shaq Mason should be back in the lineup for the Patriots offensive line, so that should help improve their offensive line. But if you're the Ravens, you need to find ways to get pressure on Brady. And I honestly think the best way to beat the Patriots is to play like the Patriots defense. I know that sounds crazy, but I think you need to send extra people. I think you need to be able to find creative ways in your pass rush to be able to get after Tom, specifically in the inside and specifically on third down. And I think you need to make him throw the ball to James White in the flat, and I think you need to be sure tackling. So I think the Ravens need to trust their corners. I think the Ravens need to play like the Patriots. I know it's funny, but they need to trust their corners to play man-to-man and just beat up the receivers of the Patriots. And they need to say, we're getting after Brady. And there's not many teams that can do that. But the Ravens are a team with the personnel they have in the secondary that can maybe do that. With Humphrey, Jimmy Smith, Carr, and Peters, they have 4 corners that can match up with most teams in the league. And they can definitely, with their physical, ability. I mean, Jimmy's big, Carr is big, Peters is big, Humphrey is big. They can all physically, at the line of scrimmage, bump the Patriots off routes. Now, of course, McDaniels is very creative in the way that he motions guys and the sets that they go in and out. And I think another thing you can take of maybe from the Super Bowl of Wade Phillips is showing one defense but playing another and trying to confuse Tom Brady. And I think the Ravens defensively, they're very creative in that way. So I really am intrigued to see how Tom Brady plays versus the secondary in those big clutch situations. I do think the biggest, toughest matchups for the Ravens defense will be Edelman and James White. I don't know if there's a guy on the Ravens that can really take away Edelman. I would assume they'll put Marlon Humphrey on him for at least a majority of the game, but I don't know if Humphrey's the type of corner that can match the quickness of Edelman. But that will be a good matchup if it does happen, and I'm concerned that they cannot cover James White because the Ravens don't really have a lot of speed at linebacker, so that's going to be a difficult matchup there. But the Ravens are very strong versus the run, so I don't feel like they're going to have to put extra guys in the box to be able to stop Michel or this rushing attack. And specifically without James Devlin for the Patriots, they don't have that power element that they used to have. So I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think this is going to be probably low 20s to teens for both teams. Is Harry going to play for the Patriots? Something interesting to look for if you're a Patriots fan. This could be his first game of his NFL career in the regular season. If the Patriots offense comes to play and has a good game and a good game plan, I think the Patriots could blow the Ravens out. But I don't see that happening in Baltimore. I think that the Patriots win, but I think it's going to be very close. I think it will be within a touchdown. I think we'll be within a touchdown. I'm going to say the Patriots win by 6. I'm going to take them to cover because I do think there is a world where they might blow the Ravens out if Lamar Jackson throws a couple interceptions or fumbles. Or I could see the Patriots defense dominating this game in a world, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm going to say that the Patriots win, but it's going to be a very close game, a very entertaining game. And I'm very much looking forward to, for the first time this year in a Patriots game, the matchups and the X's and O's and the coaching of Harbaugh versus Belichick. I think this game is going to be fascinating, and I think it might be one of the best of the season, and has some old school Patriot Raven vibes to it. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be, like I said, probably a defensive battle more than anything. All right, so that's my in-depth breakdown to the Patriots and the Ravens. If you enjoyed that, Gronk spike the like button. All right, let's get to the last game. That is the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. The Cowboys are -7, Monday Night Football. The Cowboys, they're coming off their bye. And I'm intrigued to see, what are we going to see? Like, what Cowboys team are we going to see? Are we going to see the one that played the Eagles? Are we going to see the one that played the Jets? That's what I want to know. Are the Cowboys going to be motivated coming off of the bye? I think, okay, first off, Giants traded for Leonard Williams. That should help them stop the run versus Ezekiel Elliott. The Cowboys, they traded for Michael Bennett. I think he's going to have an immediate impact. I said that in the video, or did I make a video about Michael Bennett? But nonetheless, I said this at one point. Maybe it was in my top 10 video with the Cowboys. Michael Bennett is going to immediately help the Cowboys from a pass rushing perspective, from the interior of their line. They needed that type of player, and they're going to get it with Michael Bennett. He can still play. He just didn't fit in what the Patriots were doing from a scheme perspective. He's really going to have a big impact. I think he's going to be a good player for the Cowboys. The boys' offense, they're actually first in yards this year. They're first in DVOA. They're first in third down offense. I think they're going to be able to pass the ball and torch the secondary again. Cooper is absolutely elite, and the Giants do not have an answer for him unless they double team him every play. In that case, they cannot double team him and stop Zeke and the running game and stop Gallup. So the Cowboys should be able to score points in this game. And I want to just see the next level of Ezekiel Elliott. I want to see Zeke from 2 years ago come out and dominate. You know, I haven't seen that this year yet. I want to see that happen. And maybe this isn't the team to do so because the Giants are big beastly dudes in the middle, especially after getting Leonard Williams. But I think the Cowboys win. I think the Cowboys cover. Danny Dimes might make some plays here and there, but I think the Cowboys are going to be motivated after the bye. And I think they're going to be looking to put a licking on the Giants. And I just can't trust the Giants' pass defense to really make any plays. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win and to cover. All right. Let's get to the comments because I'm intrigued to hear what you guys had to say about that Patriots game. I know Bodo is not intrigued for what I had to say about that Patriots game. He says, with all the Patriots talk, I want my $2 back. Thank you, Bodo. All right, so the last comment I got from Tyree was from Tyree, so if I missed your comment, please re-comment. He says, sorry, can't go against that defense. Rob says 24-17 Patriots. I like that score. I think that's relatively around what's going to happen. Blake says Pat's going to take that L, hopefully, with a laughing face. Buffalo says, thank you. Hashtag Pats take the L. Conspiracy says, I'm picking the Ravens in a nail-biter 27-21. Busboy says the Pats should win, but this is because the Ravens almost lost to the Ben-less Steelers. Bodo says, Mitch is making excuses for the Pats already. What excuses did I make? What excuses? Conspiracy says, Niners zone is better than the Pats D. Tyree says, it's annoying to hear that people always say that about the Patriots. It pisses me off. Sounds like Ryan Clark or Max or Shannon. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Buffalo says, hey, everyone, Mitch is scared of some little birds. I'm not scared, bro. Get out of here. I'll tell you, you know what? I should just put this game up just because that's what we're talking about. Tyree says, all I know is the Ravens are not as good as they are. They only played one good team. That is true. Okay, the Ravens have played two good teams. They played I guess the Seahawks are good, and the Chiefs. And they lost the Chiefs game, and they beat the Seahawks. But I don't know if the Seahawks... I know they have a good record, but like they're not a great team. They're a good team. So... yeah, like the Ravens have not had a difficult schedule either, so you can't really say that for a point on either direction, in my opinion. Buffalo says, Mitch, this is the week the Ravens pull the upset. Buffalo says Belichick runs a pass defensive scheme. Bodo says it's going to be raining. Tom will not be able to throw. Tom's good in the rain, bro. Well, that would hurt Lamar more so than Tom. And Buffalo says Tom Brady couldn't handle the NFL in the 80s or 90s. Yeah, I'm sure. No, that's actually not the reason. I wasn't even thinking about that. But, you know, that would be nice, Kevin Durkant. Everybody has the Cowboys winning, I think. All right. So I think that's where I'm going to end off. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sebastian has Patriots 56-52. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, guys, again, Gronk spiked the like button. If you haven't already, and if you are new, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos just like this. And comment below your opinion on the Patriots-Ravens game and more games. Look out for some of the videos coming out tomorrow. I will be, of course, the Stardom and Situm will be out sometime tomorrow. And the Patriots-Niners, who is better, I'm hoping to get out tomorrow. And I'm also trying to make a video on Lamar Jackson, but we'll have to see how much time I have because I'm also very busy with school. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed, again, hit that like button. Peace out.